Every child, wrote the Sufi poet Hafiz, every child has known God. Not the God of names, not the God of don'ts, not the God of whoever does anything weird, but the God who knows only 4 words and keeps repeating them, saying, "Come dance with me. Come dance." Good afternoon. I even said it right. Welcome to Merging Waters. I got the name right too. I'm back in the groove, I guess. And to our worship here together on a Sunday afternoon. Joining me for worship will be Amy, my wife. I am Chad, the commissioned lay minister here at Merging Waters. Roughly 6 weeks from being an actual minister, so soon enough. Bruce is helping with music. He picked out some, because much of what I'm drawing on for our discussion this afternoon is based in Islam.
Okay, and our multi-generational story today is Love by Matt de la Peña. In the beginning, there is light and 2 wide-eyed figures standing near the foot of your bed, and the sound of their voices is love. A cab driver plays Love softly on his radio, while you bounce in the back with the bumps of the city, and everything smells new, and it smells like life. Love, too, is in the smell of crashing waves and a train whistling blindly in the distance, and each night the sky above your trailer turns the color of love. In a crowded concrete park, you toddle toward summer sprinklers, while older kids skip rope and run up the slide, and soon you are running among them, and the echo of your laughter is love. On the night the fire alarm blares, you're pulled from sleep and whisked into the street, where a quiet old lady is pointing to the sky. Stars shine long after they've flamed out, she tells you, and the shine they shine with is love. But it's not only stars that flame out, you discover. It's summers, too, and friendships, and people. One day, you find your family nervously huddled around the TV, but when you ask what happened, they answer with silence and shift between you and the screen. In your dream that night, you are searching for a love that seems lost. You open and close drawers, lift cushions, empty old toy bins, but there's nothing. You wake with a start in the arms of a loved one who bends to your ear and whispers, "It's okay, it's okay, it's love." And in time, you learn to recognize a love overlooked. A love that wakes at dawn and rides to work on the bus. A slice of burned toast that tastes like love. And it's love in each deep crease of your grandfather's face as he lowers himself onto an overturned bucket to fish. And it's love in the rustling leaves of gnarled trees lined behind the flower fields. And it's love in the made-up stories your uncles tell in the backyard between wild horseshoe throws. And the man in rags outside the subway station plays love notes that lift into the sky like tiny beacons of light. And the face staring back in the bathroom mirror, this too is love. So when the time comes for you to set off on your own, heavy winds will sweep past your building, and great gray clouds will congregate above. Your loved ones will stand there like puddles beneath their umbrellas, holding you tight and kissing you and wishing you luck. But it won't be luck you'll leave with, because you'll have love. You'll have love, love, love.
The great James Baldwin wrote, "The longer I live, the more deeply I learn that love, whether we call it friendship or family or romance, is the work of mirroring and magnifying each other's life."
Our first reading is from musician Nick Cave. The everyday human gesture is always a heartbeat away from the miraculous. Remember that ultimately we make things happen through our actions, way beyond our understanding or intention. That our seemingly small, ordinary human acts have untold consequences. That what we do in this world means something. That we are not nothing. And that our most quotidian human actions, by their nature, burst the seams of our intent and spill meaningfully and radically through time and space, changing everything. Our deeds, no matter how insignificant they may feel, are replete with meaning and of vast consequence, and they constantly impact upon the unfolding story of the world, whether we know it or not. And our second reading is from poet Danusha Lamaris. I've been thinking about the way, when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by, or how strangers still say, "Bless you," when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bags, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handling it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, "Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat."
So my topic today, something that came to me while I was in seminary, in a couple of pieces. But it really can be traced, I think, to this reading from the introduction to the study Quran, written by Syed Hossein Nasr, who became one of my favorite writers over the course of seminary. And he writes of the way that the Quran and the faith tradition of Islam, that it is embodied in its words, is interwoven or infused into the daily life of many Muslims. As he put it, this is his words, the Quran is the constant companion of Muslims in the journey of life. The first sounds recited into the ear of a newborn child, and its verses are usually the last words that a Muslim hears upon the approach of death. He describes the way the sound of its recitation can be almost always be heard in Islamic cities and towns, how every act that is legitimate in the eyes of God is preceded by the very words that open the Quran. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Through the Quran, Muslims experience their faith in a way that is soaked into their lives. These are Nasser's words. The Quran is present in the soul and mind of believers during every moment of life, whether one is engaged in lovemaking, fighting a battle in the middle of war, or busy in economic activity. No matter how much one writes about the role of the Quran in Muslim life, it is impossible to exhaust the subject. For the Quran affects every aspect of a Muslim's existence, from the body to the psyche and the inner faculties, to the mind, the intellect, and the spirit. I am not a Muslim. In some ways, I might be as far from being Muslim as one could get while still being religious. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and within our pluralistic faith, I am what I call a divine humanist, a religious humanist. Like most of my fellow UUs, I do not believe in a transcendent or even an immanent God that is in here, in this world among us. I do believe that the reality we live in, this awesome, intricate, vast creation is, well, this is all there is. And that our relationship to creation, to our fellow humans, and to what religious naturalists call the more than human world, that can sometimes spark an energy or potential that exceeds the sum of our parts. That we can be bigger in an interdependent web of existence. This I call divinity. Now, Unitarian Universalism developed out of a liberal Christian tradition. And over the last couple of centuries, it migrated, I guess, from an evolving understanding of God toward what many UUs would describe as a reasoned focus on empirical science that leaves God out of the equation altogether. Though we look to many wisdom and faith traditions for inspiration, to a great extent, UUs would say humans should place their faith only in each other. Sometimes that faith has been overly optimistic, overconfident. A faith that one late 19th century Unitarian described as the progress of mankind, and of course it was mankind, the progress of mankind onward and upward forever. But we are developing theologies that temper this certainty, this overconfidence, with a humility that recognizes our fairly small place in the cosmos. The ambiguous complexity of human ideas about right and wrong, good and evil. And our responsibility to each other and to the wider independent web of existence that we are part of. But, and I don't think this will come as a surprise to anyone in the room, we tend to be a mostly cerebral tradition, with a tendency to emphasize the individual right of conscience in what we call the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Which brings me back to Nasser and the Quran. Reading Nasser, I wonder, what would it look like for Unitarian Universalists to have a faith that is as integrated into and inseparable from their lives as the Quran and Islam are for the traditional Muslims that Nasser writes about? Is there anything that could connect us to a sense of faith that as we move through the world day by day in a way that is at all similar to the connection Nasser portrays, the Quran creating for many in Islam? Now, I want to be careful here. I don't want to romanticize or idealize Islam or Muslims based on one short description of the faith by a scholar. Muslims, like everybody else, are human, with human motivations, ambiguities, and limitations. I would guess that not all Muslims incorporate the Quran into their daily life the way that Nasser describes. And even those traditionalist Muslims who do are almost certainly not paragons of perfect religious virtue. They are people doing the best they can with what creation has offered them, just like us. Still, if what Nasser describes is even partly accurate, many traditional Muslims are taking what creation, what for them God has offered them, and truly giving it deep and embedded value and meaning in their lives and in the way they live those lives. In the way they live those lives. Maybe imperfectly, in fact, almost certainly imperfectly. But the intention, the habit, the practice to seek God's blessing for nearly every action. And implicit in that, the hope and the intent that each of those actions, that everything we do is in fact worthy of that blessing. That it is, as Nasser phrased it, legitimate in the eyes of God. Faith like that is not limited to a weekly worship or daily prayers, or for you use maybe daily meditation. It is an expression and an embodiment of faith that aspires to be a guiding force in not just our own being, but in the essence of our relationships with each other, with our shared creation, with the holy, with God, however we conceive of that idea. So I come back to my question. What would it look like for Unitarian Universalists? Is there anything it could look like? It isn't, I guess, all that easy for us to envision because we are quick as a tradition, and I would say sometimes maybe a little too quick, to point out that we do not have a creed. Most of us do not believe in a God, and those who do have wildly different understandings of who that God is and what role God plays in the world and our lives. Even those of us who are self-described humanists don't share the same understanding of what humanism even means. Our canon is wide open, and there is no shared sacred text. For some of us, we get a little itchy even saying the word sacred. So all of this makes it challenging for Unitarian Universalists to define what our faith is. And that makes it a challenge to see how that faith could be expressed as part of our daily interactions in the world. But I think there's a place we can start. We don't have a creed, but we do have a covenant. We have the reframed statement of our shared values adopted at General Assembly last summer after years of discussion. And that creates a framework of a UU theology that places love at the center of 6 values we hope will shape the way our thoughts and actions are formed and take place in the world, take shape in the world. I've got them all here on the t-shirt, which maybe some of you can read here. Certainly you can't read it on Zoom. But there's an artistic rendering of it that is up on the screen. When the idea of a theology that placed love at the center was presented, somebody came up with the idea of visually creating this idea, literally putting love at the center. And then it is surrounded by these 6 values that were named as core to how that operates in the world. Justice, interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity. So what if, as we move through the world, we picture ourselves standing in the center of this image? Maybe it's drawn out, maybe one of Katie's creations with chalk. And we're in the middle, maybe holding a flaming chalice or a candle or whatever in our mind. Could we get ourselves in the habit, the faithful practice of entering each action or decision from that place? Viewing and guiding what we do through a lens of spiritual discipline of love, focused through one or maybe more of those 6 values. Could we welcome people into our home, into a meeting at work, into this space of worship with a conscious invocation of loving generosity and of pluralism? In our minds, if not out loud, to say, I welcome you in a spirit of love and generosity. Could we make purchases guided by that sense of love and justice and equity, with the mouse hovering over the buy button on Amazon? What happens if we say to ourselves, I buy this t-shirt with one-day delivery in the spirit of love, justice, and generosity? Might we bring even to conflict an intentional love shaped by justice and interdependence? As we take to the streets or argue with the hypothetical MAGA uncle, what would we paint on our signs? How would we listen? What would come out of our mouths if our starting place in those conflicts, in those confrontations, in that moment of staring at the blank poster board, or in the momentary silence when the uncle shuts up long enough to take a breath? What would happen if our starting place was that love-centered, love-rooted theology? Can we weave this guiding theology into our daily lives? I believe we can. Maybe not comfortably, at least not at first. It may well take a pretty big shift in the way we think about this faith tradition, the way we think about the role of faith in our lives and in the world. Nasser, in his book, The Heart of Islam, wrote about 3 ways religion is usually expressed by people in the world: traditionalist, modernist, and fundamentalist. And UUs, like most Western religious traditions, tend toward a modernist view. Religion has a place in modern society, but that place is distinct from our daily secular lives. Religion should be reformed to reflect modernization and science. What I'm proposing is that we try to adopt something like the traditionalist approach that Nasser wrote about, inspired by, though certainly not identical to what Nasser depicted in traditionalist Islam. Our traditions and our belief systems are obviously different, and so the ways we incorporate them into our daily lives should be honest to who we are and who we hope to be and what we believe. But maybe we could help build a traditionalist Unitarian Universalism that puts into practice a theology that not only rejects the idea of separating our religious lives from the secular, but insists that our secular actions should be shaped and reformed to reflect our religious values.